All right, we're going to be doing some more calculator work. Just understanding how to use the calculators, get used to them, whether it's the TI Inspire or the 84, whichever one you're having. So what I want to do is now look at a bridge problem. So it's still going to be a quadratic equation. If you still notice here, we have a parabola. It's different shape than we had before, but we will go over that. And so the first thing I want you to understand is if you compare this equation here to the equation we have last class where we were talking about what we call projectile motion or throwing it, this number right here, this 100, still indicates that it's going to start at 100. This negative 0.5 is our velocity piece. And you notice since it's negative and we start at 100, it's going downward, right? If this was a plus 5x, it would be here and would be going upward. But since it's negative 5, it's going to be going downward from that point where we start at 100. And here, our gravity is upward. So our gravity is positive. Now, really, it's not gravity, it's just part of the problem, but really that quote gravity piece is going to be upward, which is why it starts at 100, it's aiming down, and then the gravity piece is picking it back up, and that's where we get this curve from. What we need to do is work with our calculators and understand how to put this in the calculator. So I'm going to do first is the Inspire. So what you're going to need to do for the Inspire is hit your graphing screen, right, which is this button right here below the escape key. And if you go here and something's popped up, if you want to just reset the whole thing, you hit the document key. And if you press up once, you see this thing that says clear scratch pad. That's what you want to do first. So let's clear it out. We're starting fresh. We can hit here, and now we're going to put in our graph point 0.00625 x squared minus 0.5x plus 100. And if you notice, you click enter, nothing appears. That's because we have not set our window. And this is the key part for these types of problems, is learning how to set our window to what we need to know. So hit the menu button, and everything can really be found in the menu on these calculators. Hit the window and go to window settings. And what we have here is if we go back to our graph, we're going from x equals 0 to x equals about 800. And our y values go from 0 to 100. So we're going to just set those values up. So 0 to 800 because it's an 800-foot long bridge. And from 0 to, and I'm going to go 110, a little bit higher for our y max. And there's our graph. Now you also notice that this has changed to e negative 4, which means move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the 0.000625 piece. Next step is to be able to answer these questions is to go to our trace or our analyze section. So I'm going to start with a trace. If we want to just do a graph trace, that will give us this dot. And what we can do is just scroll left and right, and it will give you on the bottom here the value of these points. So if we want to say, 600 feet over, how high am I up? 25 feet. If we want to slide back here, where is a 0? That's at 400. And so on. So we can use this trace key to go back and forth to analyze our graphs and answer any questions we need dealing with this section. The other thing we can do if we wanted to is we can look for minimum values or maximum values or zeros. So if we want to know if it's ever going to cross, we can hit a 0 function. We can click on the left and the right, and it'll tell us there's a 0 right there. If we go back to our window and we want to find out, well, what is the minimum value between here and here? Well, that's going to be 533. So we can go to this, and again, this trace key is very useful, and so is the analyze graph if you're looking for a maximum, minimum, or anything else. Like I said, if you want to find a minimum value from here to here, there's your 400. Now, if you're using an 84 plus, so here's your 84 plus screen. Very similar. So we're just going to plug in the function in our y equals screen. So just hit y equals and plug in the function. One thing I will point you out to see up here where it says plot 1. If you have your plots turned on, go up and turn them off. This is a common mistake. I have people coming up to the test, hey, my graph's not working, what's going on? It's because you have your plots turned on. Now again, when we go to graph this, nothing appears. Okay, it should be that way. So we're going to go to our window, which is our window button, and do the same thing we did on the Inspire. So if we go back to the graph, we take a look at the graph, you notice it goes from 0 to 800 on the X and from 0 to a little over 100 on the Y. So 0 to 800 on our X-axis. And our Y goes from 0 to a little over 100. So I'm going to do, say, 110 for my Y maximum. Now when you hit graph, it appears. Now again, if you want to, you can trace. Just click that trace key and then you can start scrolling and figure out some approximate, where is it here? So this is the Y value at a given X value. You can just trace the graph left and right. It's a good feature to have for these questions just to kind of, help you answer them. If you hit the zoom key, or sorry, second trace, you get to this blue calculate screen. And this is where you can find a 0, minimum, maximum, intersection. So if we are looking for, let's say, a 0, you go down here to look for a 0, you'll notice it says left bound. So you want that little flashing bulb to the left of where you're looking for a 0, and then scroll that over to the right side. And it's going to look for a 0. It says guess, which you're supposed to take that flashing bulb and say, I think there's a 0 somewhere over there. Hit enter and it will find a 0 for you. 400. If you would like, you could also second calculate. You could find, let's say, a minimum value or a maximum value. So let's just find a maximum value. If we want to find a maximum value between, let's say, here is our left bound and here is our right bound, what's the maximum value there? And there you go. So that's kind of how your minimum maximum values work and your trace key. It's very important to understand how to do this. We're going to let you answer the rest of the questions, the notes, knowing how to adjust the window, use the window, come back and look at this if you need to. So best of luck.